I will say that these two gentlemen here represent an abundance of riches for us at this morning's conference. I think you probably give yourself a little bit of space, get comfy, get a glass. We really have two titans of the security industry here. And the fact that they have, and a lot of people here, I'm the old man today. These are all young guys, and I think it talks a lot for the incredible rise of smart, well-trained Saudis. We're going to have I guess, a conversation. The theme here is securing Saudi. It's not presentations, it's a chit-chat. And I've got some questions. I do hope that you have some questions in the audience. I'll introduce the panelists. And I won't just ping-pong from one to the other. I'm going to give a bunch of questions and then a bunch of questions. We'll see how it overlaps. And we'll see if we can give it a little bit of dynamism. To my immediate left, we have Engineer Abdullah Alzamil. His official title is Director of Security Technologies at Saudi Customs. He's had a lot of interesting former lives. And in fact, when he sent me his biography, it doesn't really begin to tell half the story of what you've done in the defense ministry and with procurement. It really is a remarkable background. And I think even now working in security at customs, as you will hear from Engineer Abdullah, he is thinking well beyond pure security issues into operational efficiency and customer experience in a very 360-degree view in a very important institution. To his left, we have Dr. Mohammed Aladalah. I think he has the rare distinction of both holding a doctorate from Wabash University in Australia, as well as being a lieutenant colonel. I actually asked him whether he wanted to be a doctor or a colonel this morning. He tells me that doctor is a preference today, so I will refer to him as Dr. Mohammed. He has a rather important job as the head of video security and analytics in the public security division of the Ministry of the Interior, the MOI. He's had 2 decades of experience in the public sector, and he has been involved in the design, implementation, and management of security and security systems kingdom-wide. That's across Saudi Arabia. As a doctor and a doctorate, his interests range from e-government systems to artificial intelligence, which I'm sure we'll be asking about here, and computer vision for security and data analytics. So I'm going to really turn to Engineer Abdullah. The Customs Authority really is one of the most important in the kingdom. It's recently been reorganized into its own body, and it's kind of come out of the Finance Ministry. We'll talk about some technology, but can you maybe start off by describing the size and scope of the security challenge now?
Hello and welcome everyone.
You have your mic?
Yes, I have my mic on.
Is that the on button on? Yeah.
Can everyone hear me?
Can we pick up the sound from Engineer Abdullah, please?
Hello. It's working. Hello everyone. So answering your question, Saudi Customs is overseeing an operation of more than 40 ports around the kingdom.
Let's see if we get some more numbers. I think you have a quiet voice, I know already. So let's see if we can get you another microphone.
Hello?
Oh, yes. Can we hear Engineer Abdullah in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, terrific.
So I was saying that Saudi Customs operation is across around 40 ports. These with 3 major different type airports and seaport and land port. And the security challenge between these continue to be different and evolving every year. And when we have different type of board, we have different type of security issues. So some of the board have the security of smuggling drugs and contraband. Some of the board have a different issue completely for human smuggling and other security issue. So when you managing and making sure that all these board has similar level of security, it's a very big operation and very big challenge.
Thank you. And by the way, can you hear Engineer Abdullah at the back? Everything is good? Good, because his words are interesting. I want to make sure with a quiet voice that you can hear him. You and I have chatted before, and you have used the term smart security.
Yes.
Describe it. What does that mean for you and Saudi Customs?
So when we look to the operation and security in general, we found out there is so many operations that can be enhanced by understanding what is coming to you a little bit earlier. And from that, there was the initiative of transforming our board to be a smart board in general. And that's hinder the challenge of linking all these technology that are used in security and collecting this data to make sense of this information, to have better threat analysis, to understand what kind of issue that we're having. And most importantly, the board is the face of the kingdom. And to make sure the user experience is easy as possible and quick as possible, and adhere to the vision of the kingdom of making the life easier. And that without reducing the security, but increasing the security. And here this came the initiative of making sure that our board is connected through a smart technology, transforming every single security equipment to need to be connected to the database, controlled, and all the operation become to enter the digital transformation era of transforming normal operation to a security operation, smart security operation.
I mean, I think, by the way, the same question could be, which I think I'll pose to you as well, Dr. Mohammed, that there are so many layers of complexity and I'd almost say constituency. Although you're your own body now more, you've come out from under finance, you report really into the Supreme Council, you've got a critical role, I think, in Vision 2030. One of the directives under 2030 is really for better communication and coordination between ministries. What's going well? What's going less well? You're amongst friends here. No one's going to talk about it. Just a secret. You can tell us here. What's going well? What's going less well? What are you experiencing?
I think everyone is running toward the same goal, which is making the communication better, using a digital platform to communicate as fast as possible. And the challenge is this environment did not have this platform to connect everyone. And going through the whole process was taking too long time. And here came the initiative from every single entity to how we can collaborate in managing and getting a better customer experience and increasing the security as well. So when we look to the smart port operation, we look that to complete the journey of the customer entering the Saudi and leaving the port, we need a lot of people to collaborate. And yes, the Saudi custom is owning, for example, the land port and operating it, but it's not alone. Ministry of Interior there, Border Guard is there, and a lot of ministries like trade facilitation and other. So, and here come the question is, how we link all these technologies, what is the right sequences, and how we can make a command and control rooms that join everyone and to facilitate this process. And here is the GOC, or the Joint Operation Centers. And that's, I speak, this is like 9 different entities that will join in this room to make sure that that operation is as fast as possible, as secure as possible, and you can make the automation in the board and making sure that your security decision is well informed and shared across all the entities that has actual stake.
And how's that going? Is it going at the pace that you want it to be going?
I think most of the challenges is around how to integrate these technologies, right? So when you envision new solutions, rooms does not exist. Operation from different entities as a daily process. Now you need to digitize it and make sure that there is a platform can link these operations together is the challenge. So most of the challenges is a technology challenges and how we need to have a better integration, better understanding of the customer solution.
Absolutely.
And I seen some of that in the previous presentation for Mr. Ham. And when he said that, what is the requirement, what is the benchmarking, and then he is designing the solution that fit there. And from that, you need to really understand that the challenge is not in the existing product, but in the integration in this product.
So let's come into that thought in a second. I would say, by the way, to everyone out here, and you're very shy people, you have pads in front of you. In some ways, it might even help me. If you want to write your question down, whoops, and put it in the air, and one of our representatives will pick it up and bring it to me. Just wave it, and it'll be brought up. You're sitting in a place, and we can make a transition in a jiffy. You're seeing a lot of, you have seen, and you are seeing a lot of technologies from your seat in custom. Can you talk just to the trends you see, really the important ones that you see emerging and being put into practice over the next 3 years? Again, we're looking here at trends in our industry. And particularly that notion of where you would kind of separate between the hype and the reality.
In my opinion, let's take the video surveillance and
Yes.
analytic of it as a use case. If you look to the major type of video analytics, it's like 8 categories. These categories is breaking down to more than 60 or 62 use cases for video analytics, right? So this is the current state, right? These features, okay, keep increasing every year, right? If we take 2019, for example, one of the new feature for video analytics was drone detection, okay? Drone detection, right? So it's now, it become a threat, how you see the drone, and one of the solution was identifying by cameras, right? And the other challenges is to link these to automated system and alert them, right? So the using of the video analytics is one of them. Let's take 2020, right? The new feature was mask recognition, right? Who's wearing mask, who's not, and crowd controlling, right? So, and the most important trends right now, in my opinion, is not just adding features, but going back to link these to the command and control and doing the automation. So if you notice that now we are living in the industry 4.0 era, right?
Right.
That means smarter operations, automated operation, and less human interface with the actual process. And from that, you can see that going back to the command and control room and how they are changing and becoming more smarter. It is not just now just screens and people making command. It is the system doing that command and reporting what is the critical functionality. So if you can see the trend, in my opinion, how these command and control is moving to the future and how what is presented there and the staff, what they're doing is changing to have better security, and faster response.
Well, I'm going to use that as a springboard to go to Dr. Mohammed, because when you and I have spoken, Dr. Mohammed, you've talked about the transition from passive to kind of active analytics. The ability to, given the scope, just how the cameras that you have in your system and likely that are available to you through other government systems, you've had to move from passive to active. Talk to the audience about what you've been thinking and what you've been experiencing in this area.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we have many cameras kingdom-wide through our assets, and also we're starting to connect to other agencies as well. So our goal is to reach 1 million cameras, where you could see in our command and control
Only
centers.
1 million cameras.
Let's start with that. Yeah, so one of the main challenges is we used to use this system in kind of hindsight. So we go back to see what happened. So now we're trying to move to more of trying to get more insight, and also in the future prediction. So we're trying to have live notification to control rooms, to operators, so we could have timely intervention, also predicting the better utilization of our resources on the ground. So I think it's one of the main challenges we faced is trying to build in our existing infrastructure, because arguably you could say there are 4 main uses of cameras. You have monitoring, detection, recognition, and identification. So if you're going towards the video analytics, we're trying to probably go towards the identification and recognition. And each use of the cameras has its own specifications in terms of the camera, in terms of the position, the height. So mainly our infrastructure was towards monitoring. So if you have a camera 15 meters, probably you're not going to have a good detection or identification of the person. So we're trying to build on that, try to probably install new cameras, modify some of them. Also, we're trying to look at different algorithms in terms of, getting more accuracy for plate recognition or face recognition as well. So I think also the maturity of these technology, because one of the main challenges we face is trying to allocate funding, because we had an experience probably more than 10 years ago of a system for plate recognition, and it wasn't the technology at the time wasn't mature as now. So many of the top management saw that experiment and didn't like the result, so it was hard to convince them. Now we moved from since then to now, the technology mature, also the computing power, connectivity, change, the processing, storage capabilities. So I think that's one of the main challenges, and probably we try to start small, with some quick wins, gain some trust, and then move forward.
Dr. Mohammed, I have to tell you, I think it's one of the most challenging challenges, that technology is evolving so rapidly, and you're dealing with capital investment, that once you've vested in something which can become outdated and obsolete, not in 10 years, but in 10 months sometimes. Yep. And I'll ask you to answer, then I'll come back to you. How do you deal with that? You've got an LPR really that isn't fit for the job because it's so rapidly expanded. How do you even begin to replace it? It's such a hard thing to do. You're flying the plane and retrofitting as you fly the plane. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, probably we try to get license into the technology as well during the contract. So something we could, like modify, get the API or the software, get some, training, train our staff and how to upgrade it or change it based on our requirement. as well. But you're right. I think it's something worldwide. You know, like
Yeah.
many governments.
Absolutely.
I think one of the main case studies is the government of the U.S. website. They spend billions on it, and when they try to launch it, it didn't work because you know they use the waterfall method, not probably the agile method where you could go back to the requirements, change it, and update the solution as well.
And it's interesting you cross-reference the United States. We know the border system in the United States, and that's when we come back to customs. It was set up 15 years ago in a big bid that took 2 years. The technology, and anyone trying to get anything into the United States, please, I hope I haven't given you a hint here. It's awful. It's using decade-old Unisys technology, and the providers are just poor LPR recognition, and they haven't updated. How does customs deal with that? Almost where the obsolescence is built in, given the pace of change. How do you institutionalize that in your planning?
So it's a really interesting question with no actual right answer. But the struggle is real, as you can say. And what we're doing is incremental updating to these systems, right? And with each year, we identify a new standard of operation, new specification for the system to meet up the demand from security, demand from operation, demand of user experience, right? And when we identify this system, we continue adding this technology, right? So we're opening a new port every year. One will be opening very soon, right? And all this technology that will be provided in that port, it has a big delta than what was provided before. And here come the questions. It's a fact of life that we need to procure an incremental way, expanding every day. And the solution, in my opinion, and what we currently doing is to centralize these technologies, right? And making everything talk together. And how we do this is we ensuring that there is a centralized platform that can talk to each system. And here's the, come back to the actual question, is the integration between the platform, the smart digital platform to this system, and making sure that all of them can read it. For example, one of the current challenges that what we're facing, and the US border faced it, the US custom faced it as well, is how to centralize all the X-ray machine that scan all systems, or pulsar, or human, or cars, everything passing. We take a X-ray image scan from, and from different type of machine with different type of format. And now the challenge is to create a platform, centralized platform that can read from all these machines, regardless of the technologies using, regardless of the specification, regardless of the year of build, and making sure to give the commander or the security officer the decision that he needs using the same software.
That is a magic dream. And then, by the way, as you compare Saudi to the United States, I think you were the source of this. I believe Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world that calls for the X-ray and scanning of every package that comes in.
And that by law. It's by law. And here comes the challenges. When you want to automate and making everyone pass through the border as fast as possible without even opening that parcel, you need to make sure that you have a very high throughput, using the best technology, using the best analytics, and making sure that the right information is given to the actual stakeholder at the right time.
Listen, I'm going to turn to two letters, which are the letters of our time. And it is quite clear, Dr. Mohammed, you have been both a student and a practitioner, and here come the letters, of AI, artificial intelligence. Can you talk a little bit about what you know, how you've employed it, and how you think it can be more useful to MOI?
Yeah, I think it's, and we had this discussion because AI mean different things to different people. Right. So probably I am more concerned with the computer vision. It's like, how could you make the software see a picture or a video or an object and be able to detect, identify, and take action, for example, based on your requirement. Yeah, so I think one of the main, I saw in the statistics, I think it was done by Accenture a couple of years ago, that they said around more than 95 of video data, it's dark data. No one views it, no one take action of it, and no one analyze it. So there is a huge potential there, because you can't have operators monitoring each camera, and sometimes you need accuracy, or you need to take timely action, or probably go more of prediction, like when you see specific things happening at a specific location. So we're trying to apply this and using our assets, and we're more towards starting with the main use cases. As Engineer Abdullah said, there are many use cases, so many of the out of the box or the standard use cases, we're starting to look at it. Also, we're trying to improve the accuracy of our results as well. So yeah, we're starting with the face recognition, plate identification, and we try to cross-reference it with our database to see if something come.
What's the process, actually? You stay on use cases within MOI, particularly under your leadership in your division. What's the process for coming up with use cases and testing them? What's the methodologies that you're using?
Yeah, probably we start off with the vision, or what are we trying to achieve. Then we develop few use cases. We try to allocate some budget for it. Then we try to probably look at how are we gonna test it, gradually. What are the results? We gather some requirements from the end users as well, people who are on the field or in control centers, to see how this is going to help them. Because based on my experience, it doesn't matter if you have the latest technology. If it's not helping people do their job, they're not going to use it. So
right.
it's something that you need to integrate the technology with the process, with people as well. Because I think I had a personal experience through this, because in our building we had the gate, and we install a camera to read the plates and automatically open the. So it was something to test. So when we installed the camera, it read the plates, but it didn't. When we tried to connect it with the gate handle, it didn't have a software and API we could connect with. So after a couple of weeks, I went there, and the computer that was reading the plates or the software, it was shut, and some of the guards put their breakfast on it, so no one used it anymore, because it didn't help him do his job. He need to manually go press the button and open the handle. So I think the main thing also when you're trying to apply AI is to look at the actual processes. Right. How is it going to help you achieve your goal? Also, as I said, start with the small use cases, try to evaluate it, gain some trust. Also, you need to have the right talent. I think probably because one of the things that I think we're trying to do is be more of a vendor free. So we try to go with open software where you could integrate it with other systems through API or SDK. So I think a lot of things you need to consider when trying to implement it.
Great response. And I would say there were two parts to that question. One was started with an AI question and its definition and how you think about that in your professional, its implementation in customs. And the other is really around processes and implementation. Do you want to talk to both or either of those, Engineer Abdullah?
Yeah, both of them. So both of these are basically, we deal with them in a daily basis as a challenges, right? So the idea of automation or making the port smart is to make sure that there is an automation is done based on AI decisions, right? And this decision continues to be evolving, right? So you need to provide that correct data for it. So if we go back to the X-ray example or even the video, if you take these images and now you have a new threat is smuggling certain type of equipment or drugs, right? You need the AI to look to these images and identify that this is now a trend. So this is the new use cases that we're using the AI theoretically to identify, right? Or after a while, you notice that there is a lot of smuggling in fruit, for example, right, from certain country. And you need to tell the AI or tweak the AI a little bit to search for this type of equipment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one by one, by providing the data, the use case now is valid and available and ready to be automated and integrated. So, and here the thing is, these processes need to be feeding the actual people on the ground, right? If you not modify their processes, okay, on the ground, and they're still doing it manually, all that effort is gone. So you need to improve the human capital. You need to move them toward smarter, more equipped staff, and without realizing that they switch from just pushing the button to really understanding what is the data there is and making the informed decision based on that data.
I mean, thank you, by the way, all of you, for letting me ask all the questions. And I could go on for another hour. I'll tell you this, there's that moment where Dr. Mohammed becomes Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed, because at 11:30, he's told me pretty sharp, he has a call to make, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it has been cancelled. I already informed. Yeah, so feel free
Good,
to.
but believe me, Lieutenant Colonel, I don't disobey orders when I'm told that we have a deadline. Good, we do have questions because this is a fascinating conversation. And if you could, whoever has the question, identify yourself first so we know who you are.
Sabri Isa, partner in IB Tech. So very interesting discussions and inspiring thoughts around the adoption of video surveillance. And I would like to get the point of view from the gentleman on the adoption of the video surveillance, let's say, systems and the shift happening from deploying the security surveillance, the video surveillance cameras for security applications, and the shift happening towards the cameras for business process improvement and even with the improvement or even monetization. So
well, I can't imagine a better question for customs. I'm not sure if the Minister of the Interior has a profit or revenue driver. I doubt it, but first of all, customs.
But it's a very interesting question to see that the main primary use inside the customs for cameras is for surveillance, right? But since that the vision forced every single entity to look to the customer experience, to the people experience, and how we make sure that it's a better experience, right? So one of the normal operation is inspecting goods on the docks, right? A truck coming, there is a shipment, and this needs to be processed, right? There is human capital, there is an officer need to go and check it. And when they go check it, right, it takes so many time, right? And now you're using the cameras and the analytics to identify how long it should stay there. Was it damaged? Is the delay from the shipping company, from the officer? What's really happening there? And it is fascinating how difficult to integrate that and give informed decision. And we also noted that it needs time to build the data, right? So, and we're hoping our new board will have dedicated feature like this to make sure that we know in advance how the time will, how long the time it will take, and from the truck entering the board, leaving the board, and we have a prediction in each area how long it will stay, right? And pushing the KPIs to improve these areas, right? But currently, it is just a vision on our plan to improving the customer experience and making the board is a smart board in every single operation, not just security operation, in every single thing.
Dr. Mohammed, I like the concept of customer satisfaction for the Ministry of the Interior.
No, yeah, probably I would add, for us, it's more about the public safety. So I think it's the more you invest in public safety, you're going to drive the economic growth in a way or another. So probably that would be indirect contribution to society as a whole, because I think if you invest in ICT 10%, it will come back around 6% on economic growth for the whole country. So probably that's our way to contribute to economic growth as well.
But I will tell you that the customer experience has changed. Aloysiu, you were telling me a story about how you, as you came into Saudi this time, you got a microphone?
Yeah.
Well, you may have to hold that story. Not to mind. I've got a question that's come in, believe it or not, from somewhere in the world. It's come in digitally from the live stream. And it's kind of a good one, because both of you know, again, we've been talking about multiple layers, multiple divisions, different constituencies. Based on your experience, do you believe in an overarching architecture or in customized, stitched? The biggie or the smallie biggies? How do you approach these questions?
I think we'll let the doctor.
Yeah,
Dr. Mohammed
yeah,
first.
sure. Yeah, probably I'm a more of like a large architecture base, because if we had the same infrastructure, for example, I think nowadays it's more easy to connect other systems to it. So probably, yeah, in terms of even now we have more, as you mentioned, one of the goals of the Vision 2030 is to have more of inter-ministry or agency collaboration and integration. So now we have, more than ever, we're connecting to other systems. So we have shared infrastructure, and then we could, develop services based on that.
Okay, in my opinion, okay, it's a very challenging question, but the right answer is who's the end user, right? When we started developing or updating our security surveillance systems, we looked to the design and we noticed, and we had that choice either to go with federated structure or distributed structure, right? And end up with a hybrid between both of them to ensure reliability and continuous of operation. But we noticed that the end user for each layer is different, right? Through digital transformation, everything to have overarching architecture. This is no question for that. But who's using this layer is different than the actual user of the system, right? So even if we're having a federated architecture and distributed architecture in some of the boards and some different servers, the operation is different there. the officer on that's looking for the videos and the board has a different functionality than the officer looking at the video streams in the command and control rooms, the GOC that join with different other entity, and is completely different than the one is looking in Riyadh and overseeing all the cameras. And it is also different than one Ministry of Interior that's seeing the same hour feed that we are feeding them, right? So it has to have overseeing architecture, but by the end of the day, they are different users.
And I think the academic answer to this, it depends, you know. So I think if you're in academia, there is, when someone asks you, there is no right or wrong question. So it depends on the you know, like circumstances, what are the requirements, etc.
Yeah.
So that's a good answer. It depends.
Listen, very good one. I'm going to finish this set here with keeping in the spirit of kind of best practices and benchmarking. And it's a hard question, by the way, but a short answer. First, to you, Dr. Mohammed. Where do you look to for your inspiration and benchmarking and best practices? Country, company, you know, what do you use as your touchstone? Or none, by the way.
Yeah, I think question, is it about AI or general?
No, I think in the broader world of video security, which is really what the main theme is here, certainly in security and video security and analytics.
Yeah, I guess it's for us, probably it's trying to look at the main players. You know, like what are the best practices, what have they achieved. So there are, you know, based on the market share, based on the, so probably it's more towards companies rather than countries. But if I go to AI, for example, and surveillance, probably I think the top two, you know, like countries, it's China and probably the US. And also, you know, in the last 3 years, we have an emerging entity here in Saudi Arabia, Sadaya. So probably there, we usually use them as a benchmark, because yeah, they started, you know, implementing many AI use cases, and I think at the moment they're having one of the their convention about AI and art or something. So I think they have many data science, they have many use cases they're trying to develop. So probably they're one of the main entities that we try to look at, and also benchmark our practices based on theirs.
Engineer Abdullah.
For us, the approach was a little bit different. We actually look to our own operation, what we need to improve. And we look around the world. And the answer was not a single custom operation in the world is having the same performance or the best performance in everything, right? So we really defined what is our North Star, where it is. And we try to make sure that functionality is available, right? If we take the video analytic, right? All of these things we can use as a use cases, right? But we actually focus on the actual bottlenecks that we have, right? So for example, if we having some areas that is not monitored for truck shipment, we need a detection of people moving there. And this is what we focus in, and we use the best technology for that, right? And continue on that same concept, right? What is our bottlenecks? How we can improve our performance? And reality is, it is not a simple case. And if you go back to the vision, right? It is pushing us to be in front of every single aspect. And we noticed that most of the technology was not even ready. As Dr. mentioned before, when they went to the late recognition, the technology wasn't there. So the kingdom was trying to see what is the best technology available, and even wasn't trying to funding the research for that. And we have the same issue now. We're trying to make sure that the integration between these systems, linking BSIM to command and control to a system that was never linked and never automated, is done through our project.